All right, as mentioned, the AFC North is up in our draft grade series here for the Game House. We'll be going through each division, going through the grades for each team in the NFL as we go along. Let's get this thing kicked off with the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens get a B from me. Let's start off with their draft class here. We have Zay Flowers, the wide receiver out of Boston College. I had him pretty high on my board, first round pick for sure. Gives some speed. He plays a lot like Tyreek Hill. I know he's not Tyreek Hill. He's not that fast, but he plays a lot like him. He can stretch the field vertically. He can run after the catch. Some of the jukes he makes are very similar. Like that pick for the Ravens. And then they get Trenton Simpson. Now, this is a pick that they just traded for Roquan Smith as one of their inside linebackers. But Patrick Queen did not have his option picked up, I believe, so this is one that he's going to be a future linebacker for him. Tavius Robinson, Caillou Blue Kelly, some offensive linemen there with some tough names to say. Andrew Voorhees was a value pick at the end of the draft that a lot of people thought would go earlier, despite tearing his ACL at the NFL Combine. But yeah, B for me for them. Zay Flowers, I really like the player. The fit's going to be weird. We have to see how this offense changes for the Ravens. Todd Monken's coming in from Georgia. We'll see how much of that Georgia influence is going to be on the offense this year, how much it'll remain the same from past years. The important thing for the Ravens is that they got Lamar Jackson back, and Lamar Jackson now has Zay Flowers. He has OBJ. He has Rashad Bateman. He has all those tight ends that the Ravens always love. So that's not a bad pick. Then you get Trenton Simpson. Not going to help you win necessarily this year that much. I expect him maybe to play some special teams, maybe get a couple reps here and there. But when you have the inside linebackers that you do, I don't think he's going to be seen in the field very often. And then, the rest of the guys probably going to provide some depth there at the very least. I would have liked the Ravens to go get a corner. It's a spot that I think they're particularly weak at outside of Marlon Humphrey. I think if they would have gotten one in this draft class, there was a lot of good ones too. I think they'd be much happier. Maybe even taking corner instead of Trenton Simpson. While he's a good player and one of the best linebackers in the class, I think corner was more of an area of need. They get a B, not a bad draft whatsoever. They get some good players. The Ravens usually figured some things out, and I think they've already been active on the free agent market to get some corners in there as well. Moving on to the hometown Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals were projected all draft season to maybe be taking an offensive tackle because Jody Williams wanted a trade after they signed Orlando Brown and moved him to right tackle. He's now back with the Bengals and apparently going to play right tackle and could be happy about it for 1 year until he probably leaves in free agency next year. Projected to take a tight end, but they didn't go that route either. So they went best player available. I have to say the grade gets them a B, but they do get some really good players. Miles Murphy at the end of the first round. Very good size and athleticism. I guess the production doesn't always match up with that, but he has very good size and athleticism that I think is needed on this defensive line. They've got a lot of really strong pass rushers, but they need someone who's a little bit athletic too. A guy who can help them get after the passer. This also makes their defensive line a little bit more versatile. Maybe they move Sam Hubbard inside on pass rushing downs, keep Miles Murphy outside along with Trey Hendrickson, and then you really got something cooking with your pass rush. But they did need to get more sacks next year if they want to win a Super Bowl. Then they move on to DJ Turner, the corner out of Michigan. Tested well athletically, very, very fast. This is a guy who's going to help you keep up with some of these fast receivers in the AFC like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle in Miami, some of the Kansas City receivers as well. Very good pick there, even though it's not a 100% glaring need when they have Chidobe Awuzie at one corner. They just took Cam Taylor-Britt last year at another corner, and then they have Mike Hilton in the slot. Turner's going to help their speed overall as a defense, and again, not a position need, but good value where they got him as well. Safety Jordan Battle. I love this pick. They did address the safety position the last couple of years, right? So they've gotten some new guys who are going to come in and start. Neither of them are that great or proven yet, with Dax Hill being the first-round pick last year. Jordan Battle, I think he's going to play special teams to start, and I think he's going to be an ace at those. But he's got good size, but he's also good in coverage. I think he can create an impact and maybe be a starter down the line, even if he doesn't start right away. Charlie Jones, the wide receiver out of Purdue, going to be in the slot. This is very important because Tyler Boyd is likely going to be a free agent after this year. And we saw with the Bengals this past season, right, that they had 3 wide receivers, and then after that there was a huge drop-off. It really affected them in the AFC Championship game and at other games during the season. When one of the receivers would go down, it would really put their offense, really help stall them, or not like they would not be able to get guys open because of that. And getting someone like Charlie Jones who's reliable in the slot will help take over for Tyler Boyd. If Tyler Boyd gets hurt this year, if someone else gets hurt, you can move guys around and really figure that out. But I think he'd be very productive. Chase Brown, the running back out of Illinois, I think he was probably projected to go a little bit earlier than what he did. but I like him as a running back. I think he's going to get a lot of work behind Joe Mixon this year. Samaje Perine's now in Denver. Travion Williams, we'll see if he ends up being the number 2, or maybe it's Chase Brown. But either way, like the pick there. You can read the rest of the picks there. Brad Robinson, punter, specifically important because the punting was pretty bad for Cincinnati last year and may have cost them in the AFC Championship game. So, like the draft for him, not really the positions maybe we thought they would go for heading into the draft, but I have to like the players that they got, and I think they'll have a good rotation, a pretty good chance of winning the Super Bowl this next year. All right, the Browns. So the Browns don't have a first-round pick because of the Deshaun Watson trade, and they still do pretty good. I like the players they get here. So we get Cedric Tillman, the wide receiver out of Tennessee. I think he's the best wide receiver Tennessee had this past year coming out. Jalen Hyatt was the better receiver in 2022 because of the speed and because he was on the field, but Cedric Tillman was hurt, playing through an injury, and it didn't really show up on tape this past season. But if you go to 2 years ago, he was actually pretty good, and I think he could be a good outside receiver. They've been waiting for another receiver for the last couple of years. They traded for Amari Cooper. That helps. Now you get Cedric Tillman on the other side. Maybe takes over for Donovan Peoples-Jones down the road, and maybe is a pretty good receiver. Siaka Ika out of Baylor. He's a good nose tackle. I think helps in the middle of the defensive line. A guy who's really you have to try to get him to give his all. His motor sometimes runs hot and cold, but like the player, if they can get that out of him, that'd be nice. And then DeJuan Jones, maybe a similar issue here. A lot of teams were not happy with how he weighed in some of their workouts, and maybe how he, the question of does he love football came up, but he's a mammoth of a human being, can be a really good right tackle in the future. I like that pick for them as well. Isaiah McGuire. Some people were higher on him than me, so I'll give him, a little bit of slack here for this one. Because I do think he can be a very solid rotational edge rusher in the NFL. And then another one I like later on, Luke Whippler out of Ohio State. Getting him that late was very, very good for the Browns. Not having the first-round pick hurts them, but in the end, they get a lot of solid players. I think they're going to be happy with the depth of this draft class. Even if there's not a star in here, I think they got some guys who can help their team. All right, and then the last AFC North team, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. They absolutely killed this draft. I mean, let's start it off. Broderick Jones. They traded up to get him. Didn't give up a whole heck of a lot to get him. One of the best tackles in the class. Their offensive line definitely needed work. We saw them looking at tackles at the Senior Bowl. And now you really help Kenny Pickett because he's got some decent receivers. He's got Najee Harris, a running back. You help that offensive line. Then we go to the second round. They have that first pick in the second round because of the Chase Claypool trade to the Bears. Joey Porter Jr., very physical corner. Like the pick for them. Obviously a legacy for the Steelers. They try to emphasize that a lot too. I think he's going to fit in just well with their culture. Keanu Benton, the defensive lineman out of Wisconsin. He's going to be good on this 3-4 scheme for the Steelers. I think you line him up. You can line him up at nose tackle eventually. You can line him up on one of the defensive ends. He's going to be really good for them. Good body control for his size. Tight end Darnell Washington. This is more of a luxury pick. I don't think they planned on Darnell Washington being available when they were picking. But he was a very good pick because he was one of the top tight ends in this draft class coming in. An extra blocker maybe. He's not going to start over Pat Freiermuth right away, but he can provide that second tight end value of just being a blocker right away. And I think that's really going to be valuable to them in this AFC North as things go on. Then we have linebacker Nick Herbig. Is he a linebacker? Is he an edge rusher? I don't know, but I do know that the Steelers will probably figure that one out for sure. And he can be a productive player as well. Corey Trice was another one who a lot of people thought would go earlier. They got him a little bit later. Another corner to help that secondary. A+ for them. I think there's only one other A+ I gave out in this draft class we'll get to later on in some of these videos. But very, very good draft for the Steelers. How much will it pay off is kind of the question here. Is Kenny Pickett the guy? That's what you need to figure out this year. You got a draft class to support him. You got a solid defense. The offensive line will be improved. Let's see if Kenny Pickett's the guy. If you can figure that out this year, that'll help you out. And then next year, if he's not the guy, maybe in this draft class upcoming where there's a lot of projected good quarterbacks, we'll see if that holds up, but there's a lot of projected good quarterbacks, maybe you make a move to go get one of them if Kenny Pickett is not the guy. So, very good draft for the Steelers. That is the AFC North draft grades. We are going to be doing more of these as we go along. Right now, let me know what you think of the draft grades down in the comments below. For now, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.